Let's jump right into this explainer, shall we? If you're a fan of modern football, you probably think you know its history. But, well, before the multi-million-pound megastars and the perfectly manicured grass pitches, football had a very different and honestly gruesomely fascinating past. We're talking about a time when playing the game was quite literally a matter of life, death, and defending your town's honor.
So picture this. Imagine a game where the only ban tactic is, quite literally, manslaughter. I'm serious. Think about your favorite modern sport. Take away the boundaries, get rid of all the referees, invite your entire town to join in and tell them, as long as you don't explicitly murder anyone, you can do whatever it takes to win. It sounds like a scene from some apocalyptic movie, right? But for centuries, this was just a wildly popular annual tradition.
We call it mob football, or sometimes Shrovetide football, but essentially it was just a village-wide brawl that somehow got branded as a legitimate sport. The ball? Forget synthetic materials. You're looking at a pig's bladder literally blown up and tied off. And the pitch wasn't some nicely marked field, it was the entire town. Two halves of a village or even two neighboring towns would just clash in this massive, heaving, crushing scrum. It was zero athletic finesse and 100% sheer, unstoppable brute force.
It's just such a stark, bloody contrast to the pristine modern game, isn't it? Today, you see a player drop to the ground if someone slightly grazes their ankle. But in mob football, you had hundreds, sometimes an unlimited number of players on each side. The game would rage through the streets for hours, and sometimes across 2 whole days. No yellow cards, no red cards, just pure, unadulterated chaos moving relentlessly toward a target. Okay, so here's our roadmap for the explainer today. First, what exactly is mob football? Second, its ancient origins. Third, the battlegrounds and bans. And finally, number 4, its modern survivors.
So, Section 1. What is mob football? The beautiful and extremely violent game. The basic objective here was for an entire town to move this giant, shoving scrum toward a local landmark. We're talking places like churches or specific market squares. To actually score, players usually had to tap the ball 3 times against the designated goal area. And getting it there, players could use pretty much whatever tactics they wanted. Pass it, shove their way through the streets. Early on, they could even hide it, though that was eventually banned. It's kind of funny. Modern versions of this game only really had to add one new rule to the ancient ban on murder. No motor vehicles allowed. You've got to use your own 2 feet.
Moving to Section 2, Ancient Origins, Tracing the Chaos. So where on earth did this wild tradition actually come from? Well, the roots of kicking a ball for sport go incredibly far back. Over in China, during the 3rd and 2nd centuries BC, military manuals actually recorded a game called kuju, which was used to keep soldiers fit. The ancient Greeks and Romans, they played similar rough ball games too. Fast forward a bit to the 9th century, and a Welsh monk named Nennius gives us one of the earliest records of British boys playing a ball game. Then, by the 12th century, the French were playing a rough version called la soule. Now, for centuries, this remained strictly a sport of the common people. It wasn't until the 19th century that British public schools, who had previously thought the game was only fit for, quote, butcher boys, decided to adopt it, lay down some strict codes, and transform it into the polite, modern sports of association football and rugby. All right, Section 3, the battlegrounds and bans, streets, fields, and chaos. Where did they actually play this, and why did the authorities absolutely hate it? Because there was no set pitch, the games simply went wherever the mob went. They'd surge right through public streets and narrow alleyways. Shopkeepers literally had to board up their windows just to survive the matches, which, by the way, still happens today in towns that play it. The mob would trample through open fields, plunge into freezing rivers to transport the ball, and occasionally even crash through graveyards. Eventually, memorial gardens had to be explicitly declared off-limits just to protect their sacredness. And listen, this wasn't just a bit of light roughhousing. The sheer danger involved was staggering. Back in 1308, in Ireland, records show a spectator was actually charged with accidentally stabbing a player. Or in 1321, in Norfolk, a player tragically died after accidentally running into a friend and wounding himself on a sheath knife during the frantic scramble for the ball. Broken bones, bruises, even fatalities. They were just considered a normal occupational hazard. Naturally, the authorities were terrified. They issued these frantic decrees to stop what they saw as a common, undignified, and worthless sport. Take Nicholas de Farndone, the Lord Mayor of London. He issued a desperate plea in 1314, banning the game on pain of imprisonment because of the, quote, great noise and the evils that might arise from these massive public tumults. The elites basically wanted the peasants practicing archery for war, not tearing the town apart over an inflated pig's bladder. But here's the best part. Despite successive kings and civic leaders threatening imprisonment and fines, the peasants just refused to stop. King Edward III tried to ban it in 1363. Then in 1409, King Henry IV realized he couldn't physically stop them from playing, so he tried to stop people from collecting money for it. Fast forward to the 19th century, and the Highway Act of 1835 explicitly banned playing football on public roads. Yet the sheer defiance of the common people kept the tradition alive. They'd hide it in plain sight or literally just overwhelm the local police who tried to break it up.
Which brings us to Section 4, Modern Survivors, Keeping the Tradition Alive. And this raises the most surprising question of all. Is it still played nowadays?
Yes, incredibly, it is. Despite the rise of polite public school rules and centuries of royal bans, around 15 of these incredible medieval games still survive today across the UK. You've got the famous Ba game in Scotland, where whole parts of the town are shut down. There's the Uppies and Downies in Workington, and the Haxiehood in Lincolnshire, where they actually use a leather tube instead of a ball and literally try to push it into a local pub. But perhaps the most famous of all is the Royal Shrovetide football match in Ashburn, Derbyshire.
So, a modern surviving game like Ashburn's Royal Shrovetide still follows this incredible town-wide procedure. Step 1, you have the turn-up. That's where a specially painted, cork-filled ball, cork, so it floats in the river by the way, is tossed into the crowd from a plinth right in the town center car park. Then the town divides. The Uppards, who were born north of the local brook, fight the Downards, born to the south. This massive moving scrum navigates through boarded-up shop fronts, open fields, and freezing water. Their goal? To hail or score the ball on old river millstones that are a staggering 3 miles apart. It's an absolute test of endurance that can last well into the dark hours of the night.
We sit in our living rooms today, right? Watching highly paid athletes fall over at the slightest touch, guarded by complex rulebooks and video referees. But out there, in the freezing rivers of Cumbria and the boarded-up streets of Ashbourne, a medieval echo still roars. So I leave you with this. Would you be brave enough to join the lawless scrum of the Uppies and Downies? Could you hold your nerve in a game where the only real rule is survival? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, diving into the absolute chaos of mob football. I'll see you in the next one.